Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And in this video I'll be previewing the final test match of the series between India and England. Starting off with India, the series has been sealed in their favour in the previous game. However, they'll be wanting to win this game for two reasons. One, and I've said this in the previous video as well, though, this hasn't been the omnipotent showing that we've been used to seeing from this Indian side when playing test cricket at home. And that's why I feel a 4-1 scoreline and a resounding victory in this game will bring back something that we haven't seen as much throughout this series. And the second thing being with the World Test Championship point at stake, where are there any outright competitors to India and Australia to take those two spots? No, they aren't. But you saw even in the previous time round, there was a case where Sri Lanka could potentially make it to the final ahead of India. They lost that test match in New Zealand and India got through. So I feel if you count these losses here and there, they may lead to complications in qualifications further down the line. And that's why if India secure this series by 4-1, they've got a tour of Australia coming up in a few months' time. And that's why they've got to make sure they win the games they are best placed to win. And then you can look to conquer the challenges overseas. On the 11 I've selected, I've made one change from the playing 11 for the previous game, where Bumrah is back in contention for selection. Do I think he should be? No, as I've said many times now, India shouldn't need Bumrah to win Test series at home, and I felt that he shouldn't play a single home test to manage his workload. They've brought him back here, even though the World Test Championship points on the line. You shouldn't need him to win this game, so I'm against the decision to bring him back, but he will play. So I've gone with him and Siraj to be the two seamers, with Akashdeep having to miss out. Even though he bowled well the previous game, where I thought for the first 8 overs he maintained control by picking up 3 wickets, even though after that he went for a few runs. With the hardness of the surface for this game, if it plays out typically, then I feel Bumrah and Siraj can also bowl the full lengths as well, and at pace would be better options for this surface than Akashdeep. And I've gone with Rajat Patidar to retain his place for this game because yes, he hasn't had great returns this series, but when KL Rahul and Virat Kohli are back at some point, you'd think the players who have made their debut in this series would have to make way. And I don't want to complicate the selection conundrum further by bringing in a very good player in David Padikkal, who's been in fantastic form, but then you'd think Patidar, even Sarfraz Khan and David Padikkal may have to make way if the stalwarts return. So, because I don't want to complicate the selection conundrum even more so than what it already is, that's why I'd rather go with Patidar to get the extra chance on a surface that he'd enjoy batting on, especially if India bat first in this game. And on Patidar's selection, I'd even said this when I was previewing this series. Did I think he'd be that starter for India at home and overseas? No, I didn't. I thought there were other options available. But I thought if he did play at home with the record he's got in first-class cricket, he'd be able to have great returns. The series hasn't gone his way thus far. However, I think he should play this game. As I've said, he would enjoy batting on the surface, and I think he'd have a very good IPO, even though this hasn't been the test series where he's got a lot of runs. As I've said before, Mohammad Siraj during this series, the economy rates have generally been above 4 and over. He's a purely attacking bowler, and there's not been much assistance from him throughout this series, and therefore he has gone for runs. Bumrah is also an attacking bowler, but no matter what he does, he will keep the runs down. As I said, when you've got the options such as Umesh Yadav, Bhuvneshwar Kumar has been doing very well in domestic cricket, both of those, there's no need to play Bumrah and Siraj because of the other options they've got in the squad. Would Akashdeep and Mukesh Kumar be suited for the surface? No, they wouldn't. And Siraj wouldn't necessarily keep the runs down. And at this venue as well, wickets don't tend to fall early on in the innings, especially when for the team batting first. So that's why we once again may see a case where Siraj goes at above 4 and over in this game, especially with the way this England side like to play when batting on a surface like this. So we'll have to see how that goes. And finally, the 100th Test match for Ravichandran Ashwin, a legend of Indian cricket, and I felt for a long time has been the best spinner in the world. I've said on many occasions he should be starting in all three formats for India, and even though he'll be getting to the 100 test match landmark and has breached 500 wickets, will he be starting in Australia? We don't know, because they don't tend to start him when going overseas. And I think it's quite a poignant thing that you've got this world-class bowler and you don't start him because of matchups or what you think would be correct. So even though they may not start him overseas, which is a very poignant thing, I feel this achievement should be heralded. He's been a fantastic player for India, and I'm very happy to see that that he's reached this milestone. And now in England, even though the series has been sealed, I feel they've given a good account of themselves on this tour, and they dominated the first 2 days in the previous test match as well. As for the 11 I've gone with, the top 7 will be the same as it has been throughout this series, and I've made one change. This has nothing to do with how Ollie Robinson went in the previous game in the first innings, where he went for 54 runs in his 13 overs. I feel he was scapegoated with the performance that he gave in that first innings, even though it should be separated as to how he bowled to the right-handers and the left-handers. And also I thought they didn't lose the game because of how he bowled. I feel with the hardness of the surface at this venue, if things play out typically, Mark Wood would be the better option, with James Anderson providing that control. Having said that, you saw in Rajkot where even though he picked up 4 wickets in the first innings, he went at above 4 and over. In the second innings, he bowled 10 overs and gave 46 runs. So even when he's made an impact, I think apart from one innings, the second innings of the first test match where he bowled 17 overs and went at less than 3 and over, which shows that he has been able to adapt that one time on a surface that he wouldn't have enjoyed bowling on. But unfortunately, even though he'd enjoy bowling the surface, if he is one-dimensional and keeps on bowling the ball halfway down the track, we may see him leak runs once again. And compared to other venues in India, the seamers come into play a lot more at this venue, meaning if Mark Wood goes for runs, you can't rely on the spinners to bail you out, at least for the first 2.5-3 days of the test match, or certainly not as much as the other venues. So he's got to be especially careful that he doesn't go for as many runs, or he doesn't go at the economy rate that he did go in Rajkot, and we'll have to see how that will go. Another player we're playing his 100th test match is Johnny Bairstow. I feel since 2017 he's been a bit of a mercurial figure in this format, where going back to the series I'm referring to, in 2016-17 England toured India and Bairstow crossed 50 on a consistent basis in that series. At that point in time I thought he was one of the best keeper batsmen in the format. Things have been up and down for him since then, and having said that, he's played quite a few match-defining innings. You would have seen the run in 2022 spanning from the tour of West Indies and then subsequently when India and New Zealand toured. I feel his white ball career since 2017, where he moved out to opening the batting and ODIs, it's taken centre stage over his red ball career. But because of how capable of a player he is, I feel England have backed him because of that, and I wouldn't blame them either, because especially all these years until these options emerged, someone like a Harry Brook emerged, I feel he would have still got into the team over the others, and I feel he's given enough match-defining performances to have warranted that faith. So getting to 100th test match is a huge milestone, and I wish him all the best. And finally, for comparing 11s, as I've said before, looking at the top 4 for each side, I feel the English openers have got to that 50-run mark more often than not than the Indian openers. But I feel in terms of playing that individual match-winning knock, Rohit Sharma and SSV Jaiswal would take the edge. Zach Crowley has got a few decent scores where he scored 270 odds in the first game, has got starts and most of the games hasn't kicked on to get that big score. Ben Duckett scored 153 in one of the recent games, hasn't done as much apart from that. So I feel in terms of getting the match-defining big score, the Indian Openers would take that. Shubman Gill versus Ollie Pope. I'm not surprised that Ollie Pope, after getting that 196 in the first game, hasn't done too much. Shubman Gill has played a few good innings in this series, and I feel have a good game in this one as well. Rajat Patidar hasn't been having the best series up to now. We're batting on a good surface, and Joe Root, he got a century in the previous game, and we all know how good he is. So I feel he'll also be looking to have a good game in this one, and I think he will. So overall, I feel the Indian side would take that in terms of the top four because you've got Rohit Sharma and Jaiswal, who I think are in outright better form than the others. However, someone like a Joe Root, I feel, will also do well in this game. So I feel because India have got outright 3 bankable options, I feel, compared to England's 1, even the others can chip in here and there. I feel India would take that. On 5, 6, 7, you've got Sarfraz Khan versus Johnny Bairstow. Bairstow will be looking to make a statement. Sarfraz Khan has been in good form, and I feel he'll be, especially if India bat first, he'll be looking forward to batting on the surface. Jurel versus Ben Stokes. I feel Ben Stokes, especially in a situation where the series has been sealed, England have nothing to lose. I feel, especially if England bat first, Ben Stokes would be looking forward to play one of his innings that he does do in crunch situations, and that's why I feel he may have something in his locker. Jadeja versus Ben Stokes. I feel because of the experience of Jadeja, he does take that. In terms of getting the big score, Ben Stokes gets that 40 of 100 and something on deliveries, which isn't going to be that defining contribution with the bat, even though he plays well. Ashwin versus Tom Hartley. You think Ashwin would take that with bats and ball. Kuldeep Yadav has been bowling brilliantly, so you think he would be a threat, especially in the last 2 days of this game. Bumrah, we know what he does, and Siraj hasn't been at his best in this series. He hasn't had too much to work with. I'm not surprised he has gone fronts, given he's a purely attacking bowler, especially when he's not had things to work with as much in this series either. So I feel James Anderson would offer that control, and Mark Wood, he may go that 4 and over based on what we saw in Rajkot. A lot of the time he hasn't kept the runs down, so we'll have to see how he goes. Shoaib Bashir bowled very well in the previous game. So overall, I feel India have got an edge with batting and bowling, but I feel especially on the batting front, England can look to put on a show, especially if they bat first, as the series has been sealed. But let's see how the game goes. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, share with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. Watch yours.